They're not doing it.
Pretty sure Judaism regards Jesus as one of the prophets. Yes.
No, that's Islam.
No, fuck. That's Islam.
You don't know
Wait.
Tripled their net worth, and you're pretending you didn't see any.
Do you need a conspiracy to explain why big business gets bigger and mom and pop shops die?
So
do you not understand anything about the fucking economy? So what do you think of big business?
Exactly, that's my point. Isn't it shady to you?
What? No, what's shady about a larger business staying in business and a smaller business going into business? What's the shady part?
Hold on. You want to know what's shady about that? That's just unbelievable.
Go ahead, Nick.
Because the government literally made deals that some businesses could stay open and some were forced to stay closed. That's what's shady about it. Like, for example, they said that Walmart and Walgreens could stay open and small businesses had to shut down.
No, they didn't.
They absolutely
You're just lying.
Go back and Google it.
I don't need to go back. Okay, yeah, absolutely. You can Google at home if you want to.
There's a press conference where Trump goes out there and says that Walmart can stay open. Some businesses were allowed to stay open and some had to stay closed.
What was so that viewers at home can look it up? So what's like a city or state where you're telling me to be? Let's be clear about your claim. There are some states or cities where Walmart was allowed to stay open, but other supermarkets or other stores, not a church, not a recreational gathering. Okay.
Yes.
All right. How did the Jews make us invade in the first Gulf War?
But see, that's a totally incorrect. It's so funny.
You're so triggered.
So funny.
I see the trigger in you.
I'm not triggered, but that's just what you do. When you lose a debate, when you lose a debate,
this is like your specialty area of interest. I don't know fucking half the shit you're talking about. And you don't have an answer for me.
It's just like the weasel words
rely on somebody having no understanding of anything you're talking about.
And you
just say random fucking shit to win the argument.
It's so weird. It's so crazy.
Okay.
In addition to them being the #1 recipient, and there's actually no tangible benefit that we derive from them. In fact, it's the opposite. Constantly, we are catching spies, like the Jonathan Pollard affair. In the Trump administration, they got busted for putting listening devices in Washington, D.C.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have any military bases in Israel?
You tell me you just looked it up on your phone.
I did. So we do have military bases in Israel. Okay. I see that we have radar installations in Israel.
Tell me about
Not only that, I see we have radar installations in Israel that literally help us keep track of what's going on over the skies of Iran. Do you think that provides us a geostrategic advantage?
No, because Iran is not our adversary. Why is Iran our adversary?
Because we had a geostrategic interest in Iraq, and Iraq was for a while an adversary in Iran. And Iran is also an adversary because Iran has international. The IRGC literally does ops all over the United States.
Really? Wait. The IRGC does ops in the United States?
No, hold on. Against U.S. troops.
Where?
What do you think? In Iraq. Why
are we in Iraq?
Why are we in Iraq? Why do you think Donald Trump killed Soleimani?
Why are we in Iraq?
Why do you think Donald Trump killed Soleimani? Who do you think was killing U.S. troops?
Because Adelson gave him $500 million in 2020. That's why.
Gotcha. It wasn't because there were attacks all over Iraq on U.S. troops that was done by the IRGC that was ran by Iran's IRGC.
Why were we in Iraq?
It doesn't matter where we're in Iraq. I'm telling you.
I think that is how they dress it up. I think that is basically United States foreign policy, is that we come up with pretexts and excuses to do what we want to do anyway. Like, for example, and I'm not trying to just zoom out here, but I am trying to give examples.
You don't think that mattered either, right?
What here's the big picture, which is, I think what you're missing. Is that we give a lot of excuses. We said there were WMDs in Iraq. That's why we went to Iraq.
Second Gulf War.
There weren't any.
You're mixing the first and second one up.
No, I'm giving additional examples.
Well, why not just focus on the first Gulf War?
And here's
instead of
because
talking
you're
about
missing.
a lot of
Here's
random
why.
shit.
Because now you're interrupting, trying to derail.
Because you like to conflate a whole bunch of shit together.
No, because I'm making a point. No, because you're very naive and you think that the news media is telling you the truth about.
Well, just explain then. Why did we do the first Gulf War?
Which is war.
Okay, let him give his examples, and then can you please address the Gulf War for him?
Absolutely.
Give your examples, because he's just giving examples of why the United States lies to get in certain
situations. Because he doesn't have the answer to the first question.
No, he's going to answer the.
Look at this. This is crazy. Look, he's getting nervous.
I know it is.
He's getting nervous because he doesn't know anything about foreign policy, so he doesn't want to talk about it.
Because the four Jews made the plan in '96 that got us to invade Iraq 10 years later.
Guys, Nick, so please cover your examples of how the United States does this to do things, and then please cover his first Gulf War, because that's what he's interested in.
100%.
All right.
So I'm making a bigger point about United States foreign policy, which is that we conduct regime change operations. We go to war all the time. There's always a pretext, whether it's the gassing of the Kurds or it's what happened in Kuwait. The same is true of Iraq with WMDs. The same is true of Libya. We deposed Gaddafi in Libya. They said because, it's not like democratic enough. Does anybody really believe?
That's not even true.
Whoa. Does anybody really believe that we go to war with a NATO coalition and we deposed Gaddafi because the elections weren't free and fair. And the same thing is true of Syria. Constantly trying to create. Whoa, why are you interrupting me all the time? Is it because you're not confident in your positions? You have to derail?
Because every time you answer a question, you make up 50 bullshit
Hold on,
questions. You bring up the deposition of Gaddafi.
Hey, everyone is acting like a nigger. Stop.
Just let him finish his examples, and then please address the first call for him.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You're giving your examples of America getting involved in foreign policy.
Remember, every answer relies on 30 random talking points. So
it's not random talking points. It's about because it's about your worldview. Your worldview is predicated, and I've seen your stream. I watch your stream. You always hand wave away all these Jews in the Defense Department. You hand wave away all the Jewish disproportionate stuff by saying that things are as they seem. There are people in the world, they act a certain way, but it can't be explained by a conspiracy. That's what I'm talking. That's why it matters to go through these examples, because you're going out there and saying, well, Israel benefits us because geostrategic. Well, what does that mean? Oh, I have no fucking idea. Well, we went to war in Kuwait because of the Kurds. Can you tell me why we went to war?
Hold on, Nick. Give your examples, then the first Gulf War, and then you can ask him a question after.
I already gave my examples.
Okay.
Libya,
what about the first Gulf War then?
Libya, Ukraine, all these different interventions. They're always a pretext.
None of these things are remotely similar to each other.
If I laugh, it looks like I'm not losing. If I laugh, it looks like I don't have a completely naive worldview.
15 random facts, and I'm going to fact check on every single thing you're talking about.
Real. Yeah. The Libyan invasion clearly
Guys, please.
Yeah, it's about Kurds.
Let's keep this civil. Okay, because he asked a question about the first Gulf War. Why did we go? Is that your question? Why did we go into war with the first Gulf War?
I'm just curious how Jews are concocting every single fucking thing. And then also keep in mind too, the only evidence of any of the fact that like the Jews are behind this is because some people that are Jewish are involved in writing some of the plans.
Well, explain Kanye. Explain JP Morgan and Kanye. Let's go to the good stuff.
That is always going to be.
Let's go to Kanye.
In the totality of this conversation, the strongest evidence that Nick will ever offer for his position is some of the people involved are Jewish.
Okay, so let's hit the first Gulf.
If I understand you correctly, you're saying that Israel is America's closest ally because Israel benefits America the most. Is that right?
I'm saying that Israel is a close ally to the United States because there's a benefit for them being an ally in the Middle East. Yes.
What is the benefit?
The benefit is geopolitical. The benefit is that we've got a strong ally in that region of the world. Okay. It helps us deploy military assets. It helps us have bases in these areas. Yeah, sure.
How many bases do we have in Israel?
I don't know how many bases we have.
Okay, really? What do we deploy from Israel?
I don't even know in terms of economy. Nothing. There's absolutely no economic, no beneficial interest whatsoever for Israel being there.
And no Israelis died in the Iraq War. Everything in the big controversy actually for the Muslim world is that Saudi Arabia allowed us to station there and use their airspace, which is like a total.
We're friends with Saudi Arabia too, are we not?
I know. But
is that
we're not arguing about Saudi Arabia.
Wait, why are we friends with Saudi Arabia if the Saudi Arabians and the Jewish people don't get along?
That's the point.
If they don't always get along, why are we friends with Saudi Arabia then too?
Hang on. We could talk about Saudi Arabia in a second. I want to talk about Israel. So you said that we're allied with Israel because they provide us a benefit. I said, what's a benefit? You said, well, it's a geostrategic. I said, what does that mean? You said, well, we deploy stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, well, no, actually, they don't do any of that. So I want to stick to the same question. What does Israel do for us specifically?
Specifically, I wouldn't be able to tell what Iraq does for us specifically either. No, I don't know.
So you have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay, well, the answer is nothing. And the answer is nothing. We give them $3.8 billion per year in aid. That's in addition to all kinds of other special provisions. Every other country, because you're right to some extent about the foreign aid. We give a lot of these countries foreign aid, but there's a reciprocal advantage for foreign aid. Like, for example, we give Egypt a lot of foreign aid. You want to know why we give Egypt a lot of foreign aid? They became the second they became the second largest recipient of foreign aid after the Camp David Accords in 1978. They were the first nation to sign a peace treaty with Israel. It was only after that they became the #2 recipient of foreign aid. But one of the benefits that we get from the foreign aid, besides that we brokered a peace deal with Egypt, it was very controversial, very unpopular, is that Egypt buys our military equipment with the money we give them. Israel's the only country in the world that they don't have to spend all the foreign aid money they get on the American defense industry. They can spend it on their own defense industry. Only country that gets that sweetheart deal. In addition, we have a special part of the aid that we give Israel that we give it all in a lump sum at the beginning of the year, as opposed to giving it over the course of the year. We give it to them as a lump sum. And what they do with the money is they actually buy our American Treasury notes so they can make interest. Isn't that beautiful? So we give them the money and they demand this, only one, in a lump sum, and they take the $3.8 billion and they spend a little on their own defense industry. They spend a little on ours, and then they buy our Treasury notes and they make a little interest off the money we give them. The other thing is this. We give it to them as a loan, which is important. If we gave it to them as a grant, we would have to monitor how they spend it. Well, they don't need that kind of scrutiny on what they spend it on, so they accept it as a loan, but we forgive the loan. So there's no scrutiny, but we also don't collect it back. There's also no interest. These are all the kinds of special sweetheart provisions we give them, in addition to them being the number one recipient. And there's actually no tangible benefit that we derive from them. In fact, it's the opposite. Constantly, we are catching spies, like the Jonathan Pollard affair. In the Trump administration, they got busted for putting... Because America has no business in Iraq. We had no business in Iraq in 1990. We had no business in Iraq in 2003. We had no business in Iraq in 2011. It matters. Of course it matters. And here's why. My contention, of course, is that we were led to Iraq by Jewish Zionists. Jewish Zionists' number one enemy is Syria. Therefore, their number two enemy was Saddam Hussein. And the reason why is because of their northern border. In the 1980s, Israel invaded Lebanon, and a group called Hezbollah pushed them out. The history goes way, 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 way back. But basically, they are mortal enemies with the al-Assad family, with Hafez and Bashar al-Assad, and with Hezbollah, with Lebanon and Syria. It's about securing their northern border. In any case, they have said continuously over the last 40 years that their number one adversary they got to take out, the road to Damascus runs through Baghdad. They have to take out Iraq to take out Syria. So my contention is that we went to war with Iraq basically for the benefit of Syria. It follows, therefore.
Wait, can you explain that?
Let me finish. It's very quick. It's super quick. And then you can reply. It follows then that if we're at war in Iraq because Jews pushed us into that war to benefit Israel, it's actually not a geostrategic benefit for us to be able to surveil Iran or to kill the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, because the only reason the IRGC can kill our troops in Iraq is because we're in Iraq for Israel. So that's actually just a roundabout way of saying, well, they benefit us so that we can benefit them. They benefit us so we can kill their enemies when we're fighting their enemies in Iraq for them. It does us no good. We would have no beef with Iran besides the hostage situation from 40 years ago. But other than that, we'd have no beef with Iran, Iraq, or Syria if it wasn't for our support for Israel.
Kanye West, people are still buying the Yeezys. People are still listening to the music.
Right here.
Right
Let's
there,
go.
yeah. Okay. Adidas lost, I don't know, $250 million or something like this because they had to remove Ye. So if you say that it's in response to consumer demands rather than the demands of the ADL, it's pretty clear. The consumers are still buying the Yeezys, but the ADL wanted them gone. So which one did Adidas listen to, the consumers or the ADL?
Well, Adidas is still selling Yeezys, aren't they?
No, they're not.
Didn't they buy the trademark to Yeezys?
No, they're not. They're done selling Yeezys. They fired Kanye. They're not selling them anymore. They have a bunch left over, and we're going to have to destroy them. So they said, we're going to sell them, but donate a portion to the ADL. But they're not going to sell them.
Any proof at all that the ADL told Twitter to ban you?
Yeah. You look it up. Look up ADL, Elon Musk. No, swear to God.
Is there proof that the ADL...
The audience can look it up. There's literally... I mean, I could pull it up for you.
Yeah, tell me.
The ADL said... There's 5 people you can't bring back. David Duke, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Donald Trump, Andrew Tate. I said this earlier. 3 people have not been brought back. David Duke, me, and Alex Jones. Elon Musk said Alex Jones can't come back because of Sandy Hook. Me and David Duke are the only 2 in the list that talk about the Jews.
But you did come back.
And then they rebanned me.
Why wouldn't they just keep you banned?
Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. But they rebanned me in 24 hours. Wait a second. Nick Fuentes, you're banned from TikTok, Reddit, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube literally told us before we went live, you can't go live with Nick Fuentes because it would be circumventing a ban.
Elon Musk, Twitter's private now. Where's the pressure from the Jews?
They killed all his advertisers. They sponsored an advertiser boycott in December, and they didn't get all of them back, obviously. That's where you don't even know what you're talking about. They did the same thing to Facebook.
No, okay. Fuck, that was a major L for me. Fuck, I didn't even think about that.
Why do you not hate Judaism?
I probably do. I hate all organized religion. I'm an atheist.
So do you hate Judaism?
Sure, yeah.
You hate Judaism?
Probably, yeah.
Let's fucking go!
Martin, listen, Martin, he got a surprise for you. Martin, what do you have for this chat? Because they think we're peaking. We're just getting started. Yeah, and Super Saiyan 1 is, what's up, nigga? I can take it further. I can go further beyond, nigga. Let's go. What is it, Martin?
Okay. My closing statement is, I mean, you could go back and watch it, and really anybody could just pay attention, watch how the ADL moves, watch who gets canceled, who doesn't, learn what people are deathly
afraid to say. Kanye West said a lot of controversial stuff. It wasn't until he talked about Jews that he had these ramifications. You can compare me to any other conservative, and no matter how politically incorrect they are, they remain more platform because there's one topic that they, at pain of deplatforming and total ostracism, will not address. It's not rocket science. It's not weird. It's not random. It's not crazy. It's just pattern recognition. They're disproportionately represented in everything. You go to these, I think it's a website called jewishcontributions.com. They're all represented in finance, in academia, in government, and it's always to the benefit of Israel, always using their influence against this conversation. It's not that there's no conversation to have. Of course there is. They wouldn't be censoring it if there wasn't. We can analyze all the double standards. You can look into the evidence for yourself. It speaks for itself. You would actually need to just stuff your fucking ears and say, la, 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 like, nothing ever happens. Like, religion matters. Nationality matters. Ethnicity matters. These patterns matter. They're not coincidences. There are no coincidences. We cannot just believe everything they say in the media about war, wealth, allegiances, race. The reason that content like this is actually doing so well, 100,000 viewers on a dissonant platform where many of us are banned on YouTube or constantly at pain of possibly being banned, is because they do not want these subjects to be discussed. That's why all of this is happening. You couldn't explain it any other way other than mass delusion or something. So that's my closing statement. Pay attention. Not random, no coincidences, just pattern recognition. The closing thought, and ultimately, if you are an atheist like Destiny is, you believe that this group, the Jews, are just one group among others. And Dawson, to some extent, too, that's why he calls me an anti-Semite. If you are an atheist, you don't believe in God, then these Jews who have been around for thousands and thousands of years as a minority without a country that wield this influence, it's arbitrary. It could just be anybody else. I find that impossible without a biblical religious explanation. It's a religious war. These people hate Jesus. They have occupied the vessel of Christianity, which was Europe, and they are set against Catholicism. That's their number one enemy. That's why it matters in our lives. That's why it matters to talk about. It does affect everybody. If we want people to be saved, we want a good, virtuous society, it's got to be Christians running it, not people that hate Christians, which are Jews.
Like this?
Here?
No, he told me to sit here. Yep. I want to be near you. Fuck you.
It's a joke.
Let's make it fit in here like Legos.
So I'm racist and
Great.
sexist. That's what you got to remember. Don't attack
Love
me.
that for me.
And I hate Jews. No, I'm kidding. I don't. I love them.
I love Jews. I love everybody. Nick, come on.
He started it. It's a joke.
Wait, if you could pick
I
one,
know he's recording.
if you could pick one group of people to wipe out from the earth, who would you pick?
None of them.
None. Okay.
Period.
But is that an honest answer?
What about rapists? You wouldn't wipe out. She loves.
Whoa.
She wouldn't wipe out all rapists.
You wouldn't wipe them out?
Oh, yeah.
And so we're talking about the gay community?
The thing is, no, I was talking about the Jewish community.
All